Hi, I'm Reverend Johnny M. Sellers. I am the founder and lead engager and impactor here at JMS Ministries. We're located out of Austin, Texas right now. And I'm just so excited today just to be before you because uh, I have a great group of sisters that's going to give us, I call it the racial lens for my sisters' view. That's what I say. And we want to see and hear their thoughts and their thought process and just their ideas and some of the strategies that some of these professional sisters that are doing. Along with me, you have my co-host and co-moderator, my wife, Kendra Speed Sellers. Kendra, would you like to say something?
Sure. I am super excited to be here tonight. It's a great opportunity to be engaged in the ministry that you're doing, Johnny, and also be able to bring in the voice of our sisters. Like last week, Johnny brought together some powerful brothers from diverse, backgrounds and perspectives. Today, we get to bring our sisters to the table. And what I will say is we have some powerhouses here. But don't be intimidated by, all the degrees that they bring to the table, all of that. What I will say is we're going to have some frank discussion, and hopefully by the end of this, we have some unique call to actions about what we do as a result of what we've talked about here today. So one of the first things I would like to do is, instead of having us do the introductions of our panelists, I would like to invite each of them to introduce themselves in their own way, in addition to answering the question of, what are you uniquely doing during this point in time that really addresses racial issues head on? And what are some of the challenges that you're facing in doing so? So I will begin. Let's start in upper left corner with you, Autumn.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And Kendra and Johnny, thank you so much for bringing all of us together for this conversation. I'm really excited about the dialogue that we're about to have. And to all of the panelists, I'm looking forward to learning from you and with you tonight. So everyone, my name is Autumn McDonald. I am the owner of ADM Insights and Strategy. We are a research consulting firm that approaches market research with the integration of an anthropological lens. I've been doing research for over 2 decades across 6 continents. And within that time, focused specifically in the US, I have done over 300 studies and analyses specifically about Blacks and African Americans. So this is a space that I have been researching for a very long time. And to answer the question, what am I doing? Well, in addition to having been protesting since, for the past 6 years, of course, donating money to causes that are making an impact in our community, and doing something that I think is important, and that is leveraging my unique professional expertise to make a difference in the space that I know. And for me, that is doing social impact research. That is doing social impact research that will help drive change within our community. So that is what I am uniquely doing that leverages my own professional expertise.
Wow, thank you, Autumn, for that. And we're looking forward to the conversation tonight. The next one, D, our bulldog, D. Dawkins-Haigler. Would you please go and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone, and thank you all for having me tonight, especially to our moderators. It's so wonderful to be moderated by 2 bulldogs. I don't know what to do with myself, all this bulldog love on this, Zoom tonight. So a little bit about myself. I hail from the great state of South Carolina. Of course, you heard that I am a proud graduate of South Carolina State University. And then after that, I went to grad school, Kentucky State University, Master's in Public Administration. You answered my call to ministry in Kentucky by last year, came to Atlanta to actually work on my PhD in political science. And while I was there, decided to go to seminary as well. And so then I was in 2 schools at one time. So I have the Master of Divinity from ITC, Turner Theological Seminary, and then I have my work at Clark Atlanta University, PhD in political science. Now, all of that. All of my work has led me to do various things. I've always been concerned about juvenile justice. So when I was living in South Carolina, I had the privilege when I was 29 to be appointed as on the parole board of South Carolina dealing with juveniles. So by the time I was 31, I was the chair of the juvenile parole board of South Carolina. And so with that, I decided to move to Atlanta full-time after I left the parole board duties in 2003, even though I was here in grad school in 2 schools. And then from there, I decided to work on different nonprofits, worked on various campaigns, always was an organizer, always was concerned about issues of poverty and abuse. And then from there, is that 2 minutes? Okay, anyway, from there, I went on to run for political office, ran for office in Georgia, served 9 years in the Georgia General Assembly. And then my last 4 years there, I was chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. And prior to being the chair of the Black Caucus, I was chair of the Women's Caucus, which was House, Senate, Republican, and Democrat. So I have been engaged in activism all my life. Now, I'm an activist more so than a policymaker. So I've been out in the streets this past week, especially with the young people. As a matter of fact, I left a meeting early today with T.I. Killer Mike, they said they saw him on TV today on the Today Show, and they said everything running behind him was pictures of me on the bullhorn from yesterday in Atlanta, you know, getting the young people organized and making sure that they're okay out here in these streets. And so I would just like to see more people our age out in the streets with them. So that's my friend.
Okay. And thank you, Dee, for being on. I know Reverend Logan is busy, but I do want her to go. Reverend Logan, if you're still there, Tami, Forte Logan, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I am in a predicament here, but this is Reverend Tami Forte Logan, and I am probably a community organizer by profession, but I'm also a pastor, and I have been doing racial equity work for the last 20 years. And my work of late is primarily with progressive white churches, and specifically addressing white supremacy in the church, because as we looked at history of race, we know that we can trace it back to the Catholic Church when Pope Nicholas V created a papal bull that gave the kingdoms at that time, particularly Spain and Portugal, the right to vanquish lands, to take their resources, to take their people. So it kind of set a precedent for the church to engage in what we later know as American chattel slavery. And so because the church has a responsibility for that, particularly the white church, it is also their work to dismantle that. And so this has been a difficult call. It's not one that I asked for, but it's a very important one. And so I'm very grateful to God for even thinking about using me to do this work. I work with 12 congregations in the Asheville area from different denominations, along with 2 synagogues and about 5 what we call parachurch organizations. I'm on my way to park this vehicle, and then I have to walk down to where they're doing a protest and rally today in regard to not just George Floyd, but systemic racism and the impact that it's had on people that live in this region. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, and so the region of Western North Carolina for some time. We've had several incidents here where Black people have been killed and beaten by police, and it's gone unchecked. We recently had a man about 2 years ago, Johnny Rush, who was beaten severely by an officer. That officer was fired, and they started a restorative justice process. And so I'm actually working with them on that as well. Not really restorative, but I'm looking for transformative justice because we can't go back to what they originated with. So I'll just leave it at that.
Wow. So you all that's watching, Tami is going to be busy. We want to stay on the line because we want to get some of this firsthand knowledge of what's going on, because she's on the scene, about to be on the scene in a minute. And so we're going to let Tiffney Davidson-Parker go next. And
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Johnny and Kendra, for having me on board with this wonderful panel of strong women who are clearly doing what it takes to help make the difference nationally and globally. And so, again, I just thank you. Yes, I am Tiffney Davidson-Parker, but first and foremost, I'm a kingdom citizen. And so as a kingdom citizen for Church of God, right, for God, with that, my first mission is to help bring healing and peace of mind to children and families. And so I do that through operating Universal Therapeutic Services. Universal Therapeutic Services is a community-based mental health organization. We serve every walk of life, from as young as 2 years old to 102. Right? We provide case management, psychotherapy, counseling, things of that nature, again, to help equip our families to break the stigma of mental illness and let people know that they don't have to live with dis-ease mentally and emotionally. In addition to that, I'm the proud mom of two Black boys that I prayed for, and God answered, and He delivered. And so Michael and our David are my heroes, my babies, and the proud wife of Clarence Parker. But, ultimately, my call is to help do that, is to help bring healing and peace of mind to children and families. And so we're doing that every single day by providing teletherapy. We're doing it eventually. We'll be doing it again by providing in-person services. But not only that, we host community events that bring awareness and educate communities around how they can be optimally healthy, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. So there's so many areas of health and wellness, and we don't want to negate any of them. So that's what we do. And again, I'm happy to be here and to serve on this panel today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. It can't go without saying, we always hold it down for the South Carolina State Bulldogs. So I want to call that out. Both Dee and Tiffany are some proud South Carolina State University Bulldogs, as well as Johnny and myself. So definitely want to acknowledge that here on the Zoom. At this point, I would love to transfer over to our final panelists in introducing yourself, as well as answering the question, what are you currently doing in these times, and what are some of the challenges that you're facing in doing that?
Amen. Greetings, greetings, greetings. My name is Reverend Patricia A. Gaynor. I am affectionately known as Pastor G. I kind of call myself the thug-like pastor. I am a realist. I'm a in-your-face, take no prisoners, ready to confront whatever I need to confront. I'm a native of Greensboro, North Carolina. I was born and raised here by my grandparents, raised in a household with a strong Black woman. So not only am I proud to be African-American, but I'm proud to be a woman. And I was raised in a household that taught me that I am the best thing since sliced bread. Can I say it like that? I grew up and matriculated through predominantly white high schools that were very prejudiced. So my grandmother felt like it was necessary to continue to make me aware of the fact that despite what anyone else had to say about me, that I was beautifully and wonderfully gifted, and that God had a distinct purpose for me. As a matter of fact, anytime I would come home and tell her about what other things people had said about me, negative things people said about me, grandmother, they said I couldn't do this. Oh, they're jealous. You're better than everybody out there. Don't you worry about what anybody else has to say. You are the best person out there. So I was constantly raised in a household where where I was boosted up. Not to mention I have an aunt who is tremendous and works, we used to work for the city of Greensboro and worked in public transportation. And so I had great role models around me. I went on to attend the greatest historically Black college university in the world. That is North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. I am an Aggie. Yes, a proud Aggie. Amen. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University with a baccalaureate degree in music performance, vocal concentration, I had an initial plan to go on to Juilliard to pursue music. However, God had another plan, and God decided to call me to ministry. And so that's when my journey began. I went on to seminary, matriculated through Hood Theological Seminary, where I obtained my Master's of Divinity degree. And right about that time, I started working within the school system, and more specifically, the African American school system, in that the school I was working with was predominantly Black, Mission Possible type schools. And working in those schools, I started recognizing the issues, the psychological issues and different things happening, especially with the African American children. And I became curious about the way that African American children think and how they function. And so I went on to attend Guilford College, where I obtained a psychology degree in 2016. And so after leaving Guilford College, I continued to work in the school system. And until after that, I went on to pursue employment at North Carolina A&T State University, where I work with transfer students currently at this HBCU, helping them to maneuver and flow and get back into the swing of things. Currently, I'm also a pastor. I pastor in Rutherford, North Carolina. That's Zion Grove AME Zion Church, is a mid-sized rural community with loving people. They're currently actually in the midst of their march right now. I wish I could be there. Unfortunately, I am 2.5 hours from my charge. So yes, I drive about 2.5 hours one way to get to my charge. But they're out there fighting the good fight right now. As for me, I am an activist in every sense of the imagination. And when I mean activist, I mean I am one who pushes and compels people or attempt to activate people to action. I do so with the use of my voice. As I said before, I am a take no prisoners type of person. I don't really have a filter. So I'm probably the one that Johnny warned you all about as we were about to start this conversation. So I don't want you to be shocked at what comes out of my mouth. Nevertheless, I am a firm believer that there's a gifting and calling in everyone. It just takes the right person to have that conversation to help activate that gifting and calling within that person. And so not only am I pushing for the rights and privileges of African Americans, but I am a serious advocate for women's rights as well. And we're talking about racism and we're talking about color, but the reality is the most marginalized individual in the world is the Black woman. And we don't get the recognition oftentimes that we need. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Johnny. I didn't mean to call you. I'm the one that called him out on the post. Thank you so much, Johnny, for allowing me to be here. Sister Kendra, love you.
Well, we love you as well. You know, I'm kind of low key saying, like, can we get a couple minutes at the end where we can hear Pastor G use her voice? Because Johnny's told me about it. But I'm excited. And as we talk about voices, there is no harm in being bold in this discussion today. What I will say is we've assembled this group with the mindset that you will be bold and you will be, raw with us and being able to share. So Pastor G, you said something that you might've been the one that Johnny warned us about. I'll say at least one other person came on the call today talking about they need to make sure to keep everything in check. Don't hold back on us. No fear.
So thank you all for introducing yourselves. Facebook, I know you're waiting on these questions. I know you're waiting on the conversation. Listen to this. Joyce Cromell, Eleanor Bumpers, Kyron Gaines, Martina Brown, Megan Hockaday, Taisha Miller, Eleanor Bumpers, Latonya Haggerty, Shelley Fry. Those are all a lot of sisters, and we say their name that we don't know about. You may know some of the names, you may not. We hear Sandra Bland. We know what just happened to Breonna Taylor. We know what's going on currently in our country. You just heard Tami say she's going to a walk. With that
So
It
guys,
is great to have a backup plan. So we apologize for any problems with our video. We are back on a different screen. So we'll work this out.
so
Johnny, go back.
so-
Let's make sure we frame who we were speaking about and then the question.
okay, good. So Facebook, if you're still there, I'm not sure if you ladies heard me, but I want to say this again, and I want to say this. India Beauty, Beatty, India Kager, Miriam Carey, Megan Hockaday, Sandra Taylor, Martina Brown, and I'm looking at this, Yvonne McNeil, Sandra Bland, Brianna Taylor. These are names of people who we're fighting right now. Some names you may know, some names you may not know. And we're talking about racial issues and racial in the path that, what are some of the possible paths to get there? Tami, if you're still there, my question is define racism. So I want each one of you to take an opportunity. I want to hear what you think on your process of defining racism. So the people that's on Facebook, the people that's listening can hear it in a different context from different sisters' point of view.
And why don't we have, yes, Reverend Tami, if you're able.
So I'm out here now. So I guess the textbook is basically simply racial prejudice plus the systemic misuse
Tiffney,
of
are you
power.
able to speak us?
Hello?
So everything seemed like a difficulty. Tiffney, Tami, we're gonna come back to you. I want you to define racism. Tami, right after she finishes, if you have time, I want to hear the definition of racism from you all.
Yes, yes. So when I think about racism, so many things come to mind, you know, and you see these images of what we were taught and what we've experienced. So when we begin to combine our experience, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Yes? Okay. So when we begin to combine our experience that we may have encountered with racism and what we were taught textbook, right, then those can be two totally different things. So for me, my definition is when I think about any group, any entity that is marginalized, that is disenfranchised, that is thought to be less than some other entity, right, for a reason of their own specific judgment or their own specific gain. Now we're talking about systemic racism. So again, I'm going to repeat that based on my own experience and what I've been taught in textbook, right? Any group or entity that has been disenfranchised, marginalized, to be treated less than any other group because of someone's own judgment and prejudices and, you know, just negative thinking about them for their own personal gain, right? Or just simply because I don't like you because you don't look like me, you know? And so that's what I think about racism. And racism doesn't necessarily, let me say isms. How about that? How about that? Because there's all kinds of isms, right? Race is just one of them. So ageism, sexism, the whole socioeconomic piece where if you don't make the same income that I make. So this thing is so broad, right? But when we focus on the race card, I just got to put this out here today. It's not just about race, guys. It's not just about race. I just want to put that out on the table today, that there's all kinds of isms that people then become marginalized, disenfranchised, and are made to be treated less than someone else, right? So I'm just going to lay that blanket and y'all go ahead and walk it on through.
If you can hear me, Autumn jump in, then Tami, you jump in, D, you jump in, and Pastor G, you jump in.
Okay, let me go ahead and jump in because I'm going to have to walk over and you're probably not going to hear me because there's too many people over there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to just give you the simple textbook definition that we share with people for Racism 101. And that is simply that racism is racial prejudice plus the systemic misuse of power.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have or be a Black person with prejudice and racial prejudice, but if you don't have power, you're not a racist. And I just want to make that clarification because often we are referred to as racist when we have a particular racial prejudice toward a group. But that's the distinction, is the power. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank
Oh,
you
one more
so
thing.
much.
I'm sorry. I want to add, the sister was talking about the different isms, that we do have to understand that oppression, I need to take this off right now, oppressions intersect with each other. And so you do have to deal with all of them. However, if you are going to be focusing on dismantling racism, you have to name it as such, and you have to address it specifically, along with the other isms. But if you choose other areas, we never get to race. That's been my experience. So you have to name it, you have to call it, and then you have to take into account that you have genderism, and you have xenophobia, and you have homophobia, and all the phobias and all the isms. But you got to talk explicitly about race, because that is the one that people will not really dissect. It's too uncomfortable. So I'll leave it at that. And I'm going over to here. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, you're not going to hear me. I'll try to keep it on. I'll see what happens, but I'm getting ready to walk over here.
Okay.
Thank you. We
Great.
appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
So yeah, thank you for that that definition. Autumn, D, and Pastor G, you go.
So I would begin by saying yes and to what Reverend Logan just said. She mentioned three things that I agree wholeheartedly with. She spoke about the fact that racism is systemic and it's grounded in imbalances of power. Yes. She spoke about the fact that when we think about racism, we have to acknowledge and also address the intersectionalities. Yes, and that we have to name it. I think when it comes to any evil, and racism is an evil, we have to be explicit in naming that evil. What I would put as an and is that while I fully acknowledge and recognize that racism is systemic, it's institutionalized forms of oppression grounded in power, I also think that we have to think about racism as discrete acts committed by individuals, because in some way failing to do so lets individuals off the hook. Racism is the looting of Black bodies upon which this country was founded. Racism is the violence that has allowed this country to flourish economically at the expense of our people's bodies through slavery, sharecropping, chain gangs, prison labors, and today, workers who are living below a living wage. Racism is a systemic devaluing of Black lives that has allowed white people to comfortably live their lives, while for years, our lives have been snuffed out. Racism is the inhumanity that has allowed white people to watch what has been happening without speaking up or taking action. It's also the neoliberal processes that are enabling the rupture and displacement of our Black communities. So there are many systemic forms of racism, but there are also many individual acts in which racism manifests itself. And I think you're going to ask us to talk later about personal experiences, but I'm going to call some of them out right here. Those individual acts look like at the age of 6, being a first grader, playing during recess, and one of my classmates calling me the N-word. Those learning at the age of 6 what this means. That racism is entering my first job in corporate America, and the brand manager I work with snapping his fingers and calling me the coffee girl in meetings. Racism is walking on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City 2 weeks after the election of the current regime in the White House and having an elderly woman spit at me and call me the N-word because I happened to step too close to her. So absolutely, racism is systemic forms of institutionalized oppression grounded in the imbalances of power, but it is individualized acts as well.
Thank you, Autumn. So much was said there, even as you gave the examples and how they show up all the way from youth into the workplace. So Thanks for sharing. Let's go over to D at this point. And if you could just share with us a little bit about your definition, and also if you want to speak a little bit about your own personal experience with racism, please do.
Let's get D off mute.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself,
That's fine. That's fine.
but I'm just gonna tell you this, the definitions that I have already heard from the 3 previous speakers were on point. For me, because I'm a policymaker as well, I have to look at racism a little bit different sometimes because I understand that it is a social construct. And so I understand that the basis of this country was just put together because people decided they was gonna create this thing called race. And from that, we have been tumbling downhill ever since with racism. And I'm telling you, I see it all the time, implicit and explicit bias. And then what even happens is sometimes as Black people, we don't even realize that we have internalized it so much that we start doing it to each other, internalized oppression. So we, even though racism is a thing, we're gonna have to talk about colorism. I'm gonna come back to racism because we're dealing with racism right now in America. This doggone racism, baby, let me tell you something. The day I was on the news, so I didn't say that in the beginning, I also do political correspondence. And so one of the channels I do at least once a week is Fox News, and I fight them all the time. I mean, that's if somebody want to really go burn down something, I need them to go over, to Fox News and burn the whole doggone building down, because they just spewing anger and nonsense, and they are malicious. But the one thing I do like about Fox News is we know where they stand. We're very clear. Sometimes dealing with the devil you know is better than dealing with the devil you don't know. They're very clear in their racist thoughts and their ideologies. They come right at you like, bam, here it is, what you gonna do? See, I actually appreciate Donald Trump. I appreciate him and all his shenanigans because he ain't even putting on anymore for us. So we know how to go at him and we know what to do with them jokers and we can handle them. Yeah. It's the ones who pretend like they like us and then they create public policy that destroys us. You see what I'm saying? Because they can smile in your face and they're writing out public policy that will mess you up in generations to come behind you. So when they tell me that we can't have reparations, and I say, why? Because I'm still waiting on my 40 acres and a mule. I have not forgotten. They'll say things like, oh, but you can go to school now. You can get a job now. And Black women are the most educated, group of women. You're owning more businesses now, small businesses. But let me tell you something. We started at negative ground zero because public policy allows Black people to work for free, slave labor. And that created wealth for them, generational wealth that they passed down. And so they are on a different footing because they have the wealth of their ancestors that brought them to the table of where they are now. So when people try to say, well, we don't understand why Black people can't get ahead, lies, all lies. You got ahead because you operated off the slave labor of my great-great-grandparents. And so, no, I want my 40 acres and a mule. We're going to get some reparations. And I'm going to stop right now and I'll pass it on.
Look. So if you're watching our Facebook Live, JMS Ministries, and I believe some things, we are addressing racism. We're addressing this thing head on, and I allow people that come on my view, on my thing, on my page, I allow them to be open and honest. So if you're that person and you want to come on, you can come on. But right now, if you're that person and if you're feeling very uncomfortable right now, you might not want to stay on this page because this might be some very uncomfortable conversation that we lack to talk about that you don't want to hear, but you might want to stay right there because you might hear something that you can work with, right, Kendra?
I think that's true. And the other part here is that we are facilitating discussion. So my thing is what my sister might say over here, it might not be what I agree with, but we're going to allow the facilitation of that discussion and allow all voices at the table so that we can share. And then walking away from the discussion, we have an even greater understanding of where we stand. So, I totally agree with what you were saying, Johnny. Let's go over to Pastor G and provide for us your definition, as well as if you want to share any examples of how that comes to life for you. So Pastor G.
Pastor G look like she's fading out on us here.
Right. So what we'll do here is.
She's back. Pastor G is back. Come on, Pastor G.
See, the devil don't want me to talk. I know what's going on. The devil don't want me to talk, but I'm gonna talk today. So racism. My sisters have defined it beautifully here. The whole concept of it being a social construct, something that humanity established, and I believe they established it to justify establishing superiority over one group. Another thing, and I heard, and I like the way Autumn put it. I heard how we have to, how Tami said we have to address just the one ism. But see, the issue as an African-American woman is I can't address my Blackness without addressing the fact that I'm a woman as well. So I mean, it works hand in hand for us, So if I wasn't just it's only 55 years since we've been able to vote. Women's suffrage for white women, it was 1920. For us, it was further along. So they've got 100 years in the bucket. We've only got 55 years. And so I can't talk about my Blackness or talk about racism without addressing the fact that I'm a woman as well, because it works hand in hand for us. And for many of us, we have been having to fight a double battle all of our lives. So, the reality is I could be a Black man and walk into a job and possibly be able to contend in some situations. But as a Black woman, I will walk into that same job, have 6 degrees, have numerous amount of experience, and still not be able to get the job, and they'll give it to a lesser counterpart. So, as far as it pertains to racism, for me, racism is something that was established to make us feel inferior. That's how I understand racism, personally, myself. And like I said, all my sisters, they already lined out the rest of it. I don't have to break the rest of it down, but I do feel like for women, we can't just deal with the color issue. We have to deal with the fact that we're women also. So for us, and I know we have to focus on race, but for us, it's just not something you can separate for us. You can't separate race and gender for us.
Right.
Well, and I love the perspective that you all brought, because these are the types of discussions that we often get into within the household. So I'll say healthy discussion, and not, fighting or anything about it. But, like last week I was like, well, are you going to have a woman on to provide perspective? Like, Black women, and I understand why Black men needed a space to be able to speak. But I do acknowledge that as a Black woman, I feel that we have unique challenges from day to day that our Black male counterparts might not have. But Johnny, I welcome you to speak on that, because you have a strong perspective as well.
Well, and I do have a strong perspective, and my perspective comes from, probably being raised by a single Black mother, number one, and not negating what I did last week. I didn't negate Black women, but I wanted to open the conversation up with brothers and integrate my sisters, and integrate next week the church, and then integrate, as everybody else said, next week, the last week, to integrate different nationalities. I want to integrate white people into our conversation, but I want to have this conversation leading up to that conversation. And with that said, last week has been very hard, right? We experienced some things last week, Autumn, not only last week, but we talking about what happened with Ahmaud Arbery. We talking about what happened with Breonna Taylor. We talking about some years of things that's been happening that we've been holding on as we look at racial issues, right? How has the last few weeks, how has that impacted you in such a way? Like, what is the impact of that from last week? What does that impact look like? How has it affected you, and what you've seen and what you've heard?
And what might be helpful here is, even as you all go throughout, if you can provide one word that might sum up how you are feeling, and then go from there with talking to us about the effect. So let's switch it up a bit. Who goes first?
You know what? Let's go D. You looking like you ready for this, because you look like your heart. You know, as I'm looking at you all and as I'm asking this question, and if you're looking on Facebook right now, you're looking at, you know, it's not uncomfortable to us right now because we have to talk about it, you know. But I saw your faces as I asked this. I'm not saying that you all got gloomy in the face, but I can see the heaviness in your heart, through your eyes when I asked you that. So, you know, D, you know, you go. D, Sister Pastor G, you go. Autumn, you go, and then Tiffany, you go. If for Reverend Logan, you on there, jump in there somewhere too. Are you still there? I know you're busy, but go ahead, D.
Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, I would like to hear from her though. But anyway, I feel discombobulated is the word I want to say. Because it's so heavy and it's so much, and Black women always have to save the soul of America. And so every time we turn around, it's something that we got to go in and be the saviors. And so for me, with Ahmaud Arbery, I was trying to do my quarantining. And then when that happened, because I live in Georgia, I said, okay, I'm gonna have to go down here for his birthday too. So I got up, went down with the family. I was protesting, marching, trying to make a difference. Even again, this past Saturday, I was back down in South Georgia because it doesn't stop with a protest. I'm down there trying to get people to recall the DAs and have them sign a petition for recall, because you can do that in the state of Georgia, recall elected officials. If you get enough petitions, put it on the ballot, you vote their behinds out. And so that was my goal, because sometimes we give rhetoric, or we get excited, or we are social media activists, but we're not in the streets, you know, on the ground, trying to make a difference. We don't go back and do the work that needs to be done, the hard work. But this is exhausting. That would be my second word. It's absolutely exhausting, because then now we have dealing with George Floyd, and I have people around me, white men, who cannot understand why this is such a problem. I mean, they were just happy with the first coroner's report. They were like, well, they said that he had pre-existing conditions. I don't care how many pre-existing conditions he had. If he had them, they were exacerbated by the fact that somebody's knee was on your neck. And so let's say you do have high blood pressure or heart disease, whatever, that knee in your neck is gonna send you straight into I almost said a cuss word, and I'm preaching, into a heart attack. So, you know, maybe let somebody else go. Because
Jump in there, Tami. Then Autumn, I want to hear from you, because I'm looking at your face right now, and your face is ready to go, Autumn. So right after Tami jumps in there, Autumn, I want you to go.
Johnny, let her go first, because I didn't even hear the prompt. Like, there's a lot of noise out here. They were just chanting, and so I missed.
So the question is this. The question is, how has this last 3 weeks? Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. Now we see now we see George Floyd. Not only George Floyd, and even what happened a couple of days ago, we saw a 17-year-old. If you don't know about that, right? That we had a 17-year-old get killed in the midst of the protest. By an armed person who said it was at in front of their club, but I don't think it was in front of their club, if I'm not mistaken. How has the last few weeks impacted you?
And provide that in one word.
And provide that in one word.
And then, you know.
Trauma.
Wow.
Extremely traumatic.
Trauma.
And we have centuries of that built up in us anyway. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this paradigm shift in the church and communities. This protest is all over the world because the trauma has been so long and so great. I think it was a tipping point. It shifted people over. I'm in Asheville. Most of the people out here are white people. I know you've seen several whites in protests across the country, but Asheville is predominantly a white city. And the youth out here are primarily white people. There are other white people, but they're mostly younger. And they're just really sickened by this. And the Black folks, I just got off a call today with Black leaders in community, and they are afraid because last night when they had protests here, the police shot rubber bullets and they released tear gas. And so they decided what they're going to do is have another protest in Black community away from downtown to avoid outside agitators coming in so they can provide their own security and still protest. So that's another level of trauma, that they can't even speak out or be a part of something like this. Right. So it's very deep. And I often think about Joy Leary, Dr. Joy Leary, who talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome. And I heard someone talk about, how we treat each other. We have certainly internalized a long history of trauma. That's basically what it is. And it's unresolved trauma, it's unhealed trauma, it's unprocessed trauma. So it does a lot of damage to us as a community and makes it difficult for us to heal and to be in right relationship with each other. So internalized racial suppression is another level of trauma that we as Black people have to deal with. So we deal with white supremacy externally, and we also deal with it internally because of that internalized trauma.
Wow, trauma. Because Autumn, you are early. I think you almost was in tears as somebody was talking, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. I'll say, when you talk about this stuff hits home a different way. If you, I'm a son of a Black woman, right? And some of you all, let's be real. Whether it's your husband or your boyfriend, your brother, your cousin, and then yourself. When you look at the sister, the baggage that you carry when you're trying to defend what's right. You know what I'm saying? So Autumn, you're next here. What have you been experiencing, and how has this affected you?
So I know you and Kendra have asked us for one word. I can't give just one word because there's a duality to what I have been experiencing. So I'm going to give you two words. The first word is exhaustion or exhausted, which is a word I've heard from others. The second word is energized. So let me provide some context. All of us who are on this panel and on this Zoom call know that the incidents of the past few weeks are not new. These things have been happening in our community for months, for years, for decades, and more than decades. Now, it may be a new awakening for some others, but it is not new for us. And so how has the past few weeks affected me? I'm exhausted. I am exhausted by the sheer pain of seeing my people suffer. I'm exhausted by white people who still aren't doing anything. I'm exhausted by Black people who have grown accustomed to accepting so very little that they think that when a white person simply puts a Black square on their Facebook, that suddenly that white person has become an ally. I'm exhausted by people who don't realize that combating racism means defeating both the organization and the organism. And I'm exhausted by my own tears. Now, on the flip side, I'm energized. I'm energized with fire. I'm energized by the fire I see in activists who are doing the real work. And kudos to all of you ladies who are doing that. I'm energized by the fire I see in the solidarity across people of color. I am energized by the white business leaders who've actually been reaching out and asking what they should do. And I'm energized by the student groups who are holding their schools and their universities to task. So am I exhausted? Absolutely. I am exhausted, y'all. I am tired. Am I energized? I am energized with a fire that will not fail. I am energized by the survivorship of my ancestors on the Middle Passage. I'm energized by my ancestors who survived slavery. I am energized by my ancestors who survived Jim Crow South and my ancestors who survived the Civil Rights Movement. And I'm energized by the survivorship of all of us. So there is an absolute duality to my feelings and my sentiment and my mindset right now. I am exhausted, but that is not going to stop me because I am energized by an infallible fire.
Thank you, Autumn. As you spoke, and you spoke about the duality of the two words that you provided in talking about exhaustion, it made me think about something that's arisen. It first came up in a women's Bible study I was in over the weekend, where, good friend, Jessica, provided the prompt of, I'm tired, but. And then Crystal, my sister, took it a step further and doing a prayer, a reflection at her white church, as well as a prayer that began with that prompt of, I'm tired, but. And the thing I like about that statement is, we talk about exhaustion. Something comes after that exhaustion, the but, and then what is that? What is the action? Talking about being energized, talking about being fearless and still committed to the work. I think it's important to acknowledge the exhaustion, the tiredness, and then also acknowledge what comes after that but. So with that said, Johnny,
but with that but, that's what you all have been doing from the time you birthed us, from the time we've been carrying that from the whole time. But I know they killed our brother. I know they killed that sister, but women are still going to be marching on and still be on the front lines and still do what they have to do. So, exhausted, but energized, a lot of trauma. And what was that last, what did he say?
She said she's discombobulated.
Discombobulated? That's a lot. That's carrying a lot right there. Somebody said something and most of your faces kind of went down, and I don't think it was that you not afraid, but it's discouragement of when somebody, some people just don't get it. Like, I just can't see, there's one more person have to die for somebody else to get it, and you see Tami that went live, we want that there. So Pastor G, you go, and then Tiffney, you go. How has this affected you in the last couple of weeks? All that you're saying.
Well, as for me, I was gonna. I'm like Dee. I'm a pastor, but I still got a little bit of thug in me. So the thug in me says I'm mad as hell is what I am. I'm mad as hell. I woke up and I'm looking at everything transpire, and I was sitting there. It was like 4 a.m. My sleep schedule's been off since COVID started, but especially since all these race matters started, my sleep schedule's been off. So 4 a.m, I'm sitting up on the edge of my bed and I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I'm seeing more and more brutality. I'm seeing more and more things that are taking place, more and more injustices, and I'm getting mad. And the next thing I knew, my hands were shaking and tears were coming down my face. And that's a different kind of mad. It's one thing when you're angry and you kind of shut down, you stop talking to people. But I was mad where I wanted to tear some stuff up. That's the kind of mad I was, where I wanted to mess some stuff up. And then I look on TV and I see the so-called leader of the free world standing in front of a church, defaming a church, having the audacity to hold up a book that I'm certain he's never read before in his life, except for to get a phrase to make it seem like he is connected to God. I mean, the audacity to defame a church that's centered in on love and equality for all, and you're standing there, it's a joke. And so I'm mad as hell about that. And another reason I'm mad is because I'm tired of people telling me how I should feel. I'm tired of people telling me how I should respond. I'm tired of people talking about the anger of the protesters and the looters out there when they've never had to live a day in Black skin. Every day we wake up, and I'm trying not to get emotional. Every day we wake up and we have to live in this Black skin, and we have to face injustices, and we have to face being demoralized and mistreated and mishandled. And all America wants us to do is to keep taking hits. And I am tired of taking hits. I'm tired of turning the other cheek. I am embracing my Jesus who walked into the temple and saw all the mess going on in the temple that had nothing to do with God and what God was about and how he tore the temple up. That's where I am. That's where I am. And there was a time where I would be worried about what people had to say and what people thought. But then I had to realize that nobody gave a damn about what I thought. Nobody cared how I felt. And if I did not take the time to make space and articulate myself, then my voice would not be heard. So my first feeling is I'm mad as hell. But my second feeling, as I would wake up and I would see Black and brown and yellow faces, I would see people from all different walks of life, different nationalities, standing up for my brown face, standing up for me, and not just in select cities, not just in New York, not just in Atlanta, not just in California, all 50 states. And then to top it off, we're going outside the country and they're standing up for us. So with that, I feel empowered. That's what pushes me to keep going, to keep pressing, to keep running my mouth regardless of what people have to say. Do I hate white people? I don't. I love everybody. But what I cannot stand is someone telling me that I can't be angry for all the mistreatment that I've had to endure, for all the mistreatment that my ancestors have had to endure, for what my grandmother had to go through as one of the first Black dietitians here in North Carolina, for what my aunt had to go through standing as a city manager for public transportation, for what each and every one of us have to go through, where we're having to matriculate through universities and prove ourselves day in and day out, despite the fact that we have already proven ourselves. So while I'm mad as hell, I'm empowered at the same time.
Look,
Thank you.
oh my, okay. You look at here. If you out there on Facebook, I'm seeing some of the comments. You know what? Hey, I don't even, Tiffany, you go ahead and
Yeah, and what I will say for Tiffany, you mental health professional. So we definitely want to hear how you're feeling, but I'm interested in how we pull this all together. And as we're going through all these emotions, how do we care for our mental health through all of this? Like, what is out there to help us be able to feel empowered, energized, and go out there and do the work day in, day out?
Yeah, so I got to respond to the first question first, right? Is if you guys don't mind, but how is this thing making me feel? How has it changed or shifted the life work that I've been called to do? How is it impacting me as a mother and as a wife? So today, I can't give you one word, and I agree with the women here. Today, I am purposefully motivated into action. I am purposefully motivated into action, knowing my purpose is to help bring healing to the trauma, help bring healing to our babies who are going through this, who are living through this. And we're dealing with compound trauma. Death from COVID-19, death from this ongoing manslaughter, death from the mistreatment that we continue to deal with day in and day out, right? So today, I am purposefully motivated into action. I don't want to just walk out there and be willy-nilly and around talking and speaking and saying things without using my word behind me, without having my word behind me that guides every step that I take. Now, yes, while I am a mental health therapist and I'm a licensed mental health therapist to boot, however, like I shared with you in my first introduction, I am first yet a child of God. And so therefore I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to take action and to be purposeful in my action. to dispel, to break down the stigmas, to break down all those walls that are continuing to cause divide amongst us, divide around us, right? And so how do we go about doing that? We have to be transparent. We have to be authentic. We have to educate one another. We got to get to know ourselves. We have to get to know ourselves. We have to get to know our culture, our history. We have to reach back and teach our babies. We have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and you better believe it, that they're going to know everything that's happened, whether the school books teach it to them or not. They're going to know how to interact in the world. They're going to understand that they are mighty men of God, that there's a responsibility that they have. However, we're going to teach them to be smart too. Right. So as we go out into this world and as we continue to march this good march and fight this good fight and serve as ambassadors for Christ for those who are, we have to do it in a way that is with decency and with order. We have to do it in a way that is not embarrassed the very thing that we stand for. We have to do it in a way that continues to edify our strength, that continues to personify the things that we speak. We can say, oh, I'm Black and I'm proud, but when we act defamatory, then of course, then we get to be labeled those very things that we've been labeled for years. Right? So I like the way my Pastors Deanna and Hesper Hudgens, they labeled it. She framed it so nicely when she said, protesters protest, looters loot, rioters riot. What's happening right now is a combination of all three of those things being wrapped up into one nutshell and calling protesters rioters and looters. That is not the case. There is nothing wrong with peaceful protesting. There is nothing wrong with that. But when you have hired hands that come in and then break down the very thing that's trying to happen to bring us all together, and then there's this label that comes around it, we can't stand for that. And so, yes, it's unfortunate that Sister D here mentioned that now people are starting to go and protest in their own neighborhoods. But why should we do that? Why should we do that? If we do that, then we are continuing to add on. Yes, I know I'm going on and I'm going to wrap it up. We're continuing to go forward.
I saw something on the video and I need to ask, pause for a minute, Tiffany. Autumn, I saw your facial expression just now and how your hand went to your face when we talk about decency and order. I try to catch what you wanted to say, because you look like you wanted to say something at that moment when she said something about decency and in order. Did you, Autumn?
I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to bite my tongue. But since
I'm not letting you bite your tongue. I want to hear this.
But since you've asked, I would say that I have a problem with us attempting to tell people how they should or should not protest.
Thank you.
I think that, so I'm a Christian. Jesus got angry. Jesus turned over the tables. And so who am I to tell people that they can't exhibit anger in their protest, that tables cannot be turned in their protest? Because quite frankly, peaceful protest that leaves people comfortable will not have the same impact. Protest, to be effective, must cause disruption. It must cause discomfort, and it must be sustained strategic discomfort. And so I have a problem with us trying to dictate the parameters within which protest must operate, because it doesn't matter how peaceful or docile a protest may be, the powers at be will have a problem with it. And to the extent that the protest remains extremely docile, that is the extent to which it will not have sustained and meaningful impact.
So let me ask this question, if I may. So, and just to get clarity, right? We're talking about 3 different instances that's been happening: the riots, the looting, and the protesting. 3 different things, right? And so protesting is protesting. Is standing up for a cause and speaking out about it. And I know you know it. I don't have to give you the definition of it, Autumn. But when we get into, here's for me, where I have issue is when it brings hurt, harm, or danger to someone else, or increases the very trauma that we're dealing with right now. So no, I'm not here to tell anyone how to do it, what to do, but I strongly urge our people to organize, to find a way to protest in a way that does not bring hurt, harm, or danger to the very people that we are fighting for. Or, I mean, because imagine if I had a storefront, I have a business. And if my storefront business owned by a Black person gets broken into and everything is taken out of, well, then is that supporting, or is that then disrupting the very thing that we are fighting for?
So like you, I'm a Black small business owner like you. I can certainly relate.
You can jump in there if you want to, because you're looking stressed.
And let Autumn finish her thought,
Go ahead,
and then we'll go
Autumn.
to deep.
I can certainly relate. My business can be replaced. Our lives cannot. And while I'm not going to say what I advocate for, what I do not advocate for. What I will say is, respectfully, I do not see the same definitive, distinct boundaries between the 3 that some others may see.
Yeah, and one thing, I don't want to give a harsh disclaimer. I mean, we all have a variety of perspectives on here. This is not at all like advocating for one avenue or the other. I just want to call that out, like as a disclaimer, because one thing I want to be clear about is that everyone's kind of lent us their voices, their faces to this. So we appreciate that. But again, facilitating discussion and disagreement is fine in my book, meaning like it pushes us forward. Go ahead, Autumn.
I'm disagreeing respectfully. I mean, I certainly respect that other people see those things as 3 very distinct things. I do not necessarily see them as 3 distinct things.
So this is what.
If I can just chime, just to say this last comment, what I really want to keep from happening is it to be seen that we're telling people, yeah, go out there and burn stuff down, go out there and turn over tables. So I'm not saying that by no means.
I am. No, I'm not. I'm
not saying that, and I'm not supporting that. I'm saying that when we come together in an organized fashion with decency and order. Now, however the protest is to happen, then so be it. I'm serving in my realm where I know that I can be of impact, right? And so that's through mental health. And those who are activists are serving in their realm in which they can be of impact, and so that's the realm that I represent. And so with that, because what does that do? That brings more people through our doors that's experiencing more trauma. I want to bring healing to people. I want to be the light. I want to be the salt, and that's what I represent. And in doing that, I believe in, yes, decency and order and organizing together, meeting up together and talking about how we're going to go about this thing in a healthy way. Not saying it's not happening, but I just believe that we need to be cautious on protecting one another in that way.
Right. So, and what?
Can I go ahead? But the issue, and I talked about this on Sunday. The issue for me is, and the reason I said I'm having an issue with people telling me how I need to feel and what I need to do and how people need to respond, is because we're dealing with a generation where we have not taught them how to respond. We haven't taught them what to do. My aunt is from the 60s and the 70s, and they talk about how they marched and how they mobilized and things like that. But this generation doesn't know anything about mobilizing. All they know is that they're angry. All they know is that they're upset and they have to respond, they have to react. And so if we want them to do the right thing, then we need to teach them what they need to be doing. The Bible says they call the young because they are strong, they call the old because they're wise. And so at this point, we need to pull on the wisdom of those who have marched. I know Meemaw and Paw Paw are not going out there and marching in the streets right now. Because the reality is, even if we're not looting and we're not rioting, we have seen what happens in the past, even in peaceful protests. We've seen how people get provoked. Even a peaceful protest can turn into what looks like a riot. And so in an effort for us to stop, because I think that divides us. I think that's something that divides us. We're so quick to say, oh no, you're wrong for this. Don't do that. Why are y'all out there doing that? And the reality is that's how they're expressing their feelings. And so if we want them, if we feel like there's a better way, we have to teach them what the better way is. We can't just say, don't do that. We have to teach them what they need to do or how they need to respond, or talk to them about what it means to mobilize, what it means to organize. Now, I do know there are some that are organizing. There are some that are mobilizing. There are some that are doing these things. But I also know that you cannot say what you won't do until you're in a situation.
Right.
I never do that. Oh my God, I can't believe that people would do that. But if you get a crazy person in your face screaming obscenities and spitting on you, you cannot say that you're not going to react. You never know what you're going to do until you're in the midst of a situation. Right. And so we can't be so quick to judge.
Right. And, you know, from Tiffany's point of view, from Autumn's point of view, from your point of view, we don't know how we will react. Kendra probably said, I probably have a dead husband out there on that street that day, because I probably would have been dead. I'm a person who don't mind dying for the cause. I'm gonna be honest with you. I go help somebody, and if it was that brother, I hear you saying on Facebook, yeah, right, but she said, I know you'll probably be out there on the ground going to jail with that guy trying to stop that, because I would have probably tried to stop it. With that said, this is, I want you to start this question off. Black women have made significant impact in the world, many times leading the way, right? You are leading the way, pushing through Autumn, pushing through Tiffney, pushing through Tami and Patricia. So what role will sisters continue to play in ensuring change in our local, state, and federal, national level? Sister D.
Well, I didn't get to answer the last question.
You know what? Take a little moment to answer that question. Take a little moment to answer the last piece. Take you about a little minute to answer that and go to that next question.
So let me just say this. Nothing is new under the sun. We've had debates when it was W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, whether it's Malcolm X and Martin King. You cannot tell a person how they need to protest when they are in the midst of going through what they're going through. See, if I had been with Kingdom, I probably would have been more of the Hosea Williams of the family, because I would have been like, okay, we're gonna tear the whole thing up and just build it back up again. But that was then, and this is now. And then we operate sometimes out of respectability politics. Like, we gotta keep, proper and prim. So everything is not for everybody. There are some who gotta do like Jesse Jackson, you just want to show up at the photo op. I'm talking about then, because I've talked to all the social civil rights leaders. Or you might have been like the Andy Young, who want to tell everybody kumbaya, kumbaya. You might have been like that, the Ralph Abernathy, okay, y'all, we got to keep this together. So it just depends on where you show up on the spectrum. It requires all of us in this game. But let me tell you something. The way we talk about let's not tear up stuff, when these people have tore up our soul, have tore up, snatched us from Africa. They have always been looters and robbers and stealers and rapists and liars and whatever you want to call them. And even during this pandemic, when they should have been trying to protect the people who were being hurt the most, they was looting. These corporations were getting hundreds of millions of dollars who did not need them, and the average person couldn't even get what they were trying to get. So let me tell you something. They've been looting and stealing for a long time in all kind of different ways, snatching babies straight out of women's bellies when they were slaves and stuff. So let me tell you, so I'm just from a different place, but I also appreciate those who are calm and can pray and lay hands on us and tell us to keep it together. It takes all of us to keep this thing moving. Gotta have good cop, bad cop, all the time, on all places. So nothing new under the sun. It cracks me up. Even looking at my mom and my auntie, they came from the same mama and they approach things totally different. My aunt is Peter. You just say something to G, she gonna tear you up. She gonna tear the whole place down. My mom is gonna be like, no, we gotta do respectable politics. So you know what? And I'm a combination of both of them. Catch me on the wrong day, but there's smoke, there's fire. So now back to women leading the world. So
smoke, there's fire.
Smoke, there's fire. I'm trying to tell you. They always laugh at me And I never get into arguments with people because this is where I am in my process now. It's a lot of work to be done and we got to do it. And if I see that you're contributing in whatever way you contribute, I'm going to help you because all of us have a role to play. But what I'm not going to do in this season is argue with people who would have snitched out Nat Turner, ran away from John Brown, and somebody that Harriet Tubman would have shot. I ain't fooling with you. So let me tell you what we gonna do.
Somebody tweet that. Somebody tweet.
Sorry.
Look, somebody tweet that. Somebody tweet what she's just saying, because I need that tweeted so I can repeat it back.
Just saying. That's where I don't even know why I said it, but I kind of know. But I'm serious about this thing right here. So we got to just, get in where we fit in, because it requires all of us. And everybody's not going to do this. Some of us going to protest. Some of us going to march. Some of us going to do economic boycott. Some of us going to write, pen the most beautiful things. Some of us going to give eloquent speeches. And what we can't do is down the other person who decide they're going to be the person that go kick the whole door down and, say, let's start over from the beginning. So that's where we are. We got to stay together because, they killing us and then we killing us. And even if we're not killing each other physically, we kill each other with our words. And words have meaning and power. And so women, back to women. Women, we have the opportunity to change the world. And I don't like being the first Black woman. I don't like being the only Black woman. That means I have not done my job if I have not brought another sister along with me. And we have to get to the point that we bring others along, train others, so that our children's children. I have 2 daughters, 2 sons, and 2 grandkids, okay? And one of each gender. So I'm trying to make sure that every generation understands where we came from. And I tell my sons and my daughters equally, you have a responsibility because to whom much is given, much is required. We can't be playing around with this thing because too much is on us. The weight of our weight on our shoulders, but also in this generation.
Right.
I'm not going to let the men get all the credit either. Let me tell you something. They did that in the civil rights movement. The women did all the work and the Black men got the credit. Lies. Black women have taken care of the church. If it wasn't for our ties and working behind the scene, wouldn't be in the churches. More lies. Let me tell you something. Black women, you got to take your rightful place, whatever that might be. And no, we're not trying to all this stuff about just fight against the man and the woman. We're supposed to be equal. I thought we were supposed to be made for each other, like a team. Right. And I love, I got a husband. I love him. I mean, he the father of all 4 of my babies. But let me tell you something now. I will lead. He can lead and I will follow if he godly, he doing the right stuff. But we make decisions together.
Right.
Together.
Right.
And he ain't gonna get all the credit because I birthed them babies. He might have put about I birthed them babies. So.
And what's important is, in the question, when I was thinking about these questions, I knew some of that was important because of you've served in the Georgia State Legislature. So you saw firsthand of being able to get things passed, being able to not get things passed, and then having to want people to come behind you, other women to come behind you, to be able to serve in that capacity. So we do appreciate your comment. Tami, let's go to you because I want to hear from you. I know you out there in those streets, girl. If you can, what role will Black women, and I thought about this with Kendra because, what role will women, Black women continue to play, especially on the national scene, a local scene and state scene as you're doing now, if you're still there, Tami. Okay, if Tami come in, we're gonna stop and let her come in. But look, Autumn, go ahead. What role will Black women continue to play on the national scene? You made significant impact. So, and we let's be real. I hadn't even got into the nutshell. We hadn't even cracked the nut of what you all really do in a large scope in your own capacities of what we really do. If you're watching it here on Facebook, we got some phenomenal women that. We talking about with Autumn, you doing research on certain things and you're working on a master's in anthropology right now. It's big. I know you don't want me to call that out, but what you're doing is going to make such an impact on Black culture, especially the research and the types of research you're doing. Amen.
Thank you, Johnny. That was really kind of you. So
I just called in. Yeah, you know. No, look, Facebook. These aren't just any sisters. You know, just because they got some miles on them now. These aren't just any sisters. These are sisters who walk the walk, talk the talk, and do the do.
So to answer your question, you know, what role do sisters have to play? We have every role. You know, we have been leaders since the beginning. We're leaders now. We will be leaders tomorrow. And I am, you know, I wouldn't be one to begin to list the roles we have to play, because in my mind, creating a list puts boundaries and parameters on the potentiality and the power of what we can do. So as far as I'm concerned, the role sisters have to play in the journey, in the fight, in the struggle, in the winning and the overcoming is we have every role, every role to play.
Thank you, Autumn. I would like to provide an opportunity for Reverend Tami, if you are available, to weigh in on this one. And it really is just talking about, like, what role do sisters have to play on the local, state, national realm in this, you know, fight for equality? Okay, so we'll go to Tiffney.
We'll go to Tiffney. So if Tammy gonna pop back in sooner or later, I know, because I thought I saw her in a car. So
I'm here.
She there, yeah. I want to hear from you, because I know you are doing some great things. Not only between being a pastor. So you all don't know, if y'all haven't figured out yet. These two ladies, Patricia Gaynor and Tami Logan, Forte Logan. They're Hood graduates. So we all met at Hood Theological Seminary, and not knocking any other seminary. So let me put that out there. But we're not only fighting on this side, we're not only in the streets, not only on the airwaves here, not only in the churches, we're saving souls, but look here, we'll fight for a soul also, hand, foot, tooth, and nail. Come on, Tami.
So I would say that there's so many different ways that people can plug in. And one of the important things about social change is we have to understand there's different ways, there's different strategies. You know, we often talk about it in terms of 4 roles so when I just came from, the protest, that's the rebel. And you need the rebel, because if you don't have them protesting, for the most part, Americans are numb and they're detached. So they won't know what's going on if the rebels aren't out there in the street protesting. So that's important. The other is the organizer. That person has to have relationships with multiple people and multiple systems and know how to bring the people together whenever they need to do that, and to utilize those relationships to exact change. The other one is the advocate. That's the person who works inside of the system. You have to have people inside the system. So you need them in the political system. You need them in the police departments and criminal justice and education, everywhere. You need people on the inside who are like-minded, and you know, we're people of God, so we're Christians. We believe in radical and unconditional love. So you need people like that on the inside. And the last one is the helper. That is the person who bandages the wounds. So when I just left, they gave a lawful order for people to leave, and so I worked my way out of the crowd. But what happened right when I left is they shot one of those, they call it it's like a flashbang, makes a really loud sound. They have gas. And as I was coming out, just as I came out, I heard it and I saw people running. So those people who got hit by that, if they send rubber bullets and they get shot by that, the helpers roll, and there are medics out there waiting for that. So they will go and they'll bandage their wound. They'll make sure they're okay. They'll give them water. They'll put water in their eyes if they get gas. So you need every bit of those roles. And what we often do, and this is the way our oppression manifests itself, is we begin to blame the different groups. You know, we talk about the protester being radical, and they're too loud, and they're too this, and they're too that. They're talking about the people on the inside doing the advocacy work, that they're sellouts and they're this and they're that. So once we understand, it's just like the body of Christ. You have many members, right? But every member has a very important part, and you have to have all of them. So we have to do the same thing in terms of exacting change in this, our local areas, in the state, in the world. You need all of them. So you just have to figure out for you personally, what are you good at, or what is your passion? Because most leaders, particularly out here, they didn't start out being leaders, but they had a passion. And that passion started growing, and they started getting capacity building. So they got people around them that started mentoring them and helping them to know what to do in certain situations. So you have to follow your passion. You have to follow the call of God. This is spirit work, just like church is spirit work. And we have to understand it as such. So figure out, what your role is. Ask God what that is, because I wouldn't be doing this if God didn't direct me in this way. I had no idea that my life would look like it does right now. But God has been shaping me pretty much all my life for these particular moments. And I'm recognizing as we begin to enter this dictatorship, because that's really what it's feeling like, and we're feeling this oppression at this level, I am equipped for this because God has planned me. He has prepared me for this all of my life. So you got to figure out what God has prepared you to do. And all of you have many giftings that is working in you, and you're stirring them up, and you're incredible women, because I've listened to your stories as much as I could in the midst of this protest. But everybody has a place, and what we have to learn to do is honor everybody in their place, respect their lane, and don't belittle them, don't berate them because they're not doing what you do.
Thank you, Tami. Because for me, when I see something, this is just me. When I see my wife close her eyes and something resonates with my wife real well, it's like, I don't know if y'all seen it, because I saw all your faces as she talked about that, and I'm looking at Kendra like, that thing, and I'm looking at my Facebook at the same time, and people are commenting, because this what you said resonated with people. It resonates with all of us, right? Right, Kendra?
And what I will say is, and thank you all for your time. So that's what I will say, because this is running long, but I'm enjoying the conversation. What resonated with me based upon what Reverend Logan spoke about was, well, one, I feel like this whole conversation, discourse has been like the range of a sermon. Like, we start with the celebration, and we going through all these different pieces, and we're breaking it down, and then being able to get, like, for me, the 4 roles that she outlined, and maybe it's just because those are the types of things I resonate with. Like, okay, great, you're giving me something I can then attach myself to, and that it's a mechanism for action, is a model for thinking about how we might take on roles. The role of the rebel, the organizer, the advocate, or the helper. And that's really what resonated with me, was like, oh, this is like a sermon. So we kind of did some of the celebration up front, and then we were able to, we breaking it down, like, I'm gonna make sure I leave you with some points so that so you have something that you can go and practically apply throughout the course of the week.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop it here, and I think, and the other thing that is really resonates with me in this is thinking about Reverend Logan. Okay, she started the call en route to a protest. She went out and protested, came back in and didn't miss a beat in the conversation, and was able to keep moving and leave us with something to think about. How do we bring this all together? That is pretty powerful for me.
Right. And not only went out to the protest, really went out to show young people out there and others that the elders are here. When you still don't think that the elders are here with you, your elders are here. They may not be out on the forefront and running on the forefront, but the elders are here to guide you along the route. So, and we're still talking. I know I got you all here for a little while. I got a couple more questions because I really want to answer these questions. So, if I had Patricia. Oh yeah. So Patricia,
can I address
No, that's your time. It's your time now. It's your time.
Oh, amen. And then I just happen to be looking. I'm looking at your feed also, because I like to see the comments. And I'm looking at a comment, and it's interesting to me because the way the comment presents, it speaks to how each of us should be talking in order for someone to be receptive to us. So he said the comment, and I'll actually read it. It says, Autumn has been very pleasant, feminine, yet strong, persuasive voice, while others are loud, angry, combative, and very hard to listen to. How does this relate to the role of Black women, loud, angry, combative women, as demonstrated by some of this panel? Wow. Are very hard to follow, interact with, and get along with. They are typically also terrible listeners, combative, are not easy to get along with. They are not good role models. So now this is the issue that we're having also, because I express myself in a passionate way. I'm seen as angry and combative. Whereas if I were a Black man, I would be seen as passionate. And this is coming from a man. This is coming from a man. So I want to address you, Clyde Bennett II. I want to go ahead and address you, okay? Just because I choose to be passionate when I speak and I get a little bit loud does not make me angry and aggressive. What it sounds like it has made me, it's made you very uncomfortable. That's what it sounds like it has done. It sounds like our passion and our willingness to speak out when not many others will speak out has made you uncomfortable. And if that's the case, you're certainly welcome to your feelings, but how dare you make an assumption about any of the women on this panel simply because they're passionate about what they're talking about. Make no mistake about it. I can be docile and I can be quiet, or I can get loud on you if I need to. And that is the power of a Black woman. Do any of my other sisters want to address that? I'm just curious.
I have to agree with you, especially I guess if I was listed as one of the loud ones, but I'm talking over a car right now, so I'm hoping that you hear me. Well, and even if I wasn't, you know, we are all unique, uniquely and wonderfully made, and we have different ways of expression. And I think what has happened with Black men is you have been socialized that you need to have women who are either under you or submissive or quiet or somehow that pacifies you or whatever the case may be. You'll have to examine that for yourself. I understand that some people, particularly Black men, are not used to strong women. I come from a line of strong women, and so there's nothing else I can be, and I'm supposed to be that. So I think you just need to find the partner that fits you and who you are, but don't create the generalization that we should all be that way. You need, just like I talked about the body parts, you know, the members of the body of Christ, you need all of those. Right. If all of us were, you know, soft-spoken and very accommodating and compromising, we would get nothing done. We would not have been able to make the changes that we've made in our lives and the lives of countless other people. So, you know, you have to just meet people where they are, Clyde, and it's okay. I'll leave it like that.
And what I want to be clear here. So again, I don't want to pit like one tone versus another or any, meaning like there's diversity in our voices. That is, there's diversity in our viewpoints. That is fine as well. The other thing is even there is acknowledgement of his point. Like, okay, that's the way you feel about it. That's your perspective. And I think it gives me something to think about. Me personally, when I heard that, it was actually a little bit of a deflating feeling because as I talk with you all, like that's not at all what I get from the course of the discussion. And so and what I will say to people that feel that way is, at least for someone like me, meaning I am bold, like in personal conversations and all of that, but it actually takes a bit of bravery to even be able to put yourself out there in such a way that you're able to be authentic to who you are and how you come across. And I think even in providing feedback, we need to be mindful of that, to the vulnerability to which we're actually demonstrating by being in this discussion. Right. That's my viewpoint. Right. And I acknowledge all the voices, all the tones, all the ways that we show up. That's fine.
Right, and I'll say this, I invited you for a reason. So you look at that comment. I don't know whomever it was personally, but trust now and believe now. I am going to reply to it now. So don't worry about that. I will reply to it, because what I do believe is that I will say that to this brother who's listening, or whoever listening on my Facebook feed. I want you to open your heart so you can hear, and I'm gonna leave it right there. Open your heart so you can hear, and we do appreciate the feedback, but I do think it's a different way that we can do that if you do have that type of feedback for someone, and it not be combative. You know what I'm saying? Because this forum is that's just reality for women. It's for my sisters. It's for people that I believe in, and I've seen your progress here. So we're gonna keep.
This is why I said, Johnny. This is why I said, and I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is why I said, for us as Black women, we can't look at just race, because we're fighting both all the time.
Right.
And it's sad. It's sad that we have to fight both all the time. But at the end of the day, we're always Black and we're always women, and so there's a perception about how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to respond. Go ahead. I just want to make a note real quick, in that
and then we go.
Each and every one of us here on this panel, this is why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can hear the different viewpoints. Yes, there's times I can talk and sing like a bird, but there's times when I'm going to come straight at it and hit the nail on the head with whatever passion I have around that topic. This is why we're here. We're not here to appease the masses.
Mm-mm.
We're not here to say what you want me to say. We're not even here to agree with each other. But we are here to talk about this thing. This thing has been, I don't even know how many of you have been publicly speaking about it. I know I have not, purposefully. Right? And so when we think about that and how we're choosing to show up and how we're choosing to give of our energy and time, those are some of the very tactics that bring upon distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
On the main topic and the main point of why we're even here.
Well,
just like Reverend Tami Logan mentioned, the body of Christ, everybody has a role and every part is needed. And so there we are.
Right, and Tiffney, in Autumn, you go ahead and answer that question when you finish saying what you're saying, because I do want to stay on it, and because I don't want to lose the essence of your question. And after Autumn, after you finish, I wanna lead off. I want you all finish with some words of wisdom. Leave us with some words of wisdom after you answer the question, Autumn, of what role does women play? Because you all made some significant impact. And I'm, when I look at my mother, when I look at other people, when I look at people who sacrifice, especially Black women over the years, who sacrifice, especially if, our ancestors, when they've seen our husbands and sons and nephews and what's the name hung, killed, and burned over these periods of years and things that's going on over these periods of years, and women have played a significant role. So what role will women continue to play, Autumn, and leave us with some words of wisdom?
So I already had a chance to answer that particular question. What I'd like to do very quickly is just wrap up with a comment as it relates to what's been discussed for the last few minutes. Okay. I have not been following the chat on Facebook, so it was a surprise to me that this comment was made. What I will say is that I applaud everyone who's on this panel and the spirit of authenticity with which we have each shown up with tonight, because it takes authenticity and it takes bravery to stand in one's authenticity. And I think that we've all done that. And so I applaud it. I think the conversation that we've had over the last few minutes opens up a very powerful opportunity for you, Kendra and Johnny, because while we can have lots of discussion about the manifestations of racism and how that oppresses us as a people, we also have lots of opportunity to have discussion about the dynamics of gender within our own community. And we know that the dynamics of gender within our community have been affected by lots of things, both external and internal. And so I would leave, as we wrap up this particular response to the Facebook chat, I would like to leave it with a challenge and an ask and a hope for to you, Johnny and Kendra, that perhaps one of the future panels may be a discussion pertaining to gender within the Black community, because it is an important topic for us to tackle. It's one that is worthy of our attention. And I'm sure if you were to have that conversation, you would probably have all of the hands on the screen go up right now with enthusiasm and passion to contribute to the dialogue.
Thank you. I mean, that's great. I love the call to action. And I love you being able to bubble that up, because I think that's something that's been in the birthing process, meaning it happens in the household where these discussions are almost daily. And so I accept the call to action. And yeah, thank you. So as we said, what we want to do is first, thank you for all of your time. I appreciate you devoting to us an hour and 48 minutes. So that's a lot. Want to go around and just allow you to leave us with your words of wisdom or your own personal call to action for us. Thank you, Autumn. As well as any information that you might want to leave about like how to be in contact with you. We'll also include all of that on the post, but let's go around and allow you to end with your concluding words. Let's start with D.
Thank you. Tonight has been so enlightening. I mean, I truly enjoyed this entire process of being on this panel with all of my sisters that I have never met before. I got so many words that empowered me. Like, I want us to all be together and do something, a project together. I don't know what it would be, but I just loved all the energy from everybody. And so, I mean, I just was excited. And so for me, that would be the next step, because sometimes we get together and we have a certain synergy and then we don't build on it. So that's all I would like to say. And then you can find me, my name, how it's spelled, D Dawkins-Haigler. That's on Facebook, that's on Instagram, and that is on Twitter. So you can find me on all those venues. I'm really only good at Facebook, but people keep telling me I got to do the others. So I'm gonna get better. But thank you all. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Kendra. Oh my God, it was a blessing. So thank you, Bulldogs.
Thank you.
Tami, let's go. Tami Forte Logan, the Reverend Tami Forte Logan. And before Tami say this, Tami, you still there, right? I know she's still there. You know, she kind of, okay.
Okay, I'm here, sorry.
I'm gonna say Tami. Okay, Tami's still there. Before Tami go, even let's keep it real. We talking about real racism here, right? Mm-hmm. Like maybe I'm not sure exactly how many months ago, was it last year, Tami, if I'm not mistaken, that somebody, and I'm gonna be blunt. So you all call it what you want. When I be blunt, I'm gonna be blunt. Somebody were nigga on your equipment or your property, right? Is that correct?
That's my husband's business. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm not gonna not say the N word. I'm gonna say exactly what they wrote, because I want people to know this thing is relevant, it's real, but these sisters are ready. Go ahead, Tami.
Now, what am I addressing? Am I saying my last thing, or you want me to
give us some words of wisdom. Leave us with some words of wisdom, and leave us your, how people can get in contact with you, because people are watching. They may want you to come speak. I want to make sure they highlight you all.
Okay. Well, you can reach me on Facebook through my name, Tami Forte Logan, TamiForteLogan. That's the best way to get me. I would say, in terms of something to leave with you, I would challenge all of us, particularly women, to practice being your authentic self, to practice that, and to anticipate barriers, but get at the tables in whatever your context is, because they need you. They need your perspective. They need your voice. Just your lived experience is incredible wisdom that needs to come to the table. And you need to make sure that you're there as much as you possibly can be. I resisted that for a long time because I'm very introverted and would rather be behind the scenes. But I've recognized, particularly in movement work, is the Black woman's perspective is very important. It's important in any facet of life. And so we have to push ourselves to be fully present. And I wasn't as present today because I'm split between two things, and I apologize for that. And I have to do this. So bring your authentic self and practice that. If you're not comfortable in certain spaces, put yourself there and practice it until you are comfortable, because they need you.
Great.
And I'll leave it at that.
Look, we appreciate that. Patricia, I'm gonna say you for last for a reason. And you know, I want you to have your say so, but I want you to have that last so you can get it in. Tiffney Davidson-Parker, leave us with some words of wisdom and anything you know, your social media handles, whatever, you know, people, and then Autumn, because we didn't get your social media handles and your stuff. So I want you to have that opportunity also.
Awesome. So the biggest thing that I would love to see is that we don't lose momentum, that we don't lose the passion, that we don't lose the drive, that we don't lose the fortitude to bring about the necessary change that we so desire and that we require, right? And so we've seen times before where, protests and all these things would happen, and then it just kind of fizzles out. Now is the time where we can't fizzle out. Now is the time where we cannot let our emotional weariness or our emotional tiredness get the best of us, right? And that we have to work smarter and not harder. That we glean from our history and talk to our grandparents. I mean, my grandmother's 89 years old. She knows what it's like. You know, have those conversations so we can get guidance and direction. So stay the course. You know, and wherever it is that you fit in, do that thing with everything you have, with all your might, wherever you're serving, however you're serving. And then don't measure yourself up against someone else, right? So I might not be the one who's a protester, but you better believe when I'm out here doing mental health counseling and therapy and building programs across the state I'm doing it with everything I have. And I'm not cutting any shortcuts in it. However long it takes to help somebody get through trauma or get through grief or get through depression. We have a solid team at Universal Therapeutic Services, and we are serving with everything that we have. So with that, you can find us at www.universaltherapeuticservices.com, on Facebook at Universal Therapeutic Services. And I'm also on Instagram under Tiffney, I think it's Tiffney D. Parker. I'm like D, I'm learning Instagram a little bit. So bear with me on that one. But yeah, and of course, email at info@universaltherapeuticservices.com. And I don't mind, give me a call. The phone number is right on the website. And I'll even send you my personal cell phone if you want to talk intimately and direct you to the right person. We're also starting case management services for people who need connection to resources in the community, like food, like housing resources, clothing options, rental assistance, things of that nature. So we are working to serve as best as we can, as quickly as we can. So guys, I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate being a part of this panel. Such a lovely group of women. Johnny, Kendra, you guys are awesome. Continue to do it. If you call on me, I'm going to be there. I'm available. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffney. Autumn.
So you all asked me to provide my social media and contact, and then I haven't provided my word of wisdom, so I'll do that as
well. We want that also.
So in terms of contact, I can be located on LinkedIn, Autumn D. McDonald. On Instagram, my company is ADM Insight Strategy on Instagram. On Facebook, my company is located under, again, ADM Insight Strategy, and I can be reached via email at insightstrategyadm@gmail.com. So my words of wisdom would be 4 words: plan, act, restore, repeat. And so why do I say that? Plan. Be mindful in the efforts we take to tackle racism. We have to think critically in those efforts. act, we must take action, because words alone are simply not enough. We have to realize that our actions will only be successful when we address, again, both the organization and the organism. Restore, and Tiffany has alluded to this on multiple occasions, we have to carve out space within our actions to restore our minds and our souls. This battle is a marathon, not a sprint. And then repeat, because we have to do this all over again, put it all on repeat, because one day, 1 week actions are insufficient. So plan, act, restore, repeat.
Come through, girl. Come through. You all provided so much, and then Patricia, I want you to have your say. This is my cohort in our DBN program, and I thank God that God teaches people restraint. I'm just say that, and thank God for restraint, and I thank God for you all. You all taking your time. I know it's been almost 2 hours, and unfortunately, this conversation is more than 2 hours. Let's keep it 100, right? This is a conversation we're gonna have tomorrow. Somebody's gonna be calling you all about this tonight. What was said, how it was said, what did you mean, whatever. And it is what it is, because these are very professional women. They're sisters who are wives, friends, family members, aunties, extended aunties, mothers, grandmothers, and workaholics in the kingdom, in the streets, in people's lives. So Patricia, have your way.
Well, let me first say, I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to sit amongst such great women, great, beautiful, inside and out, each of them expressing themselves authentically. And I love that word, authentic. They're being who they are. And I respect that, and I appreciate that. I thank you, Johnny. I tend to beat up on Johnny a little bit when we're at school. But I thank you, Johnny, and you're phenomenal. She is phenomenally phenomenal woman, your wife, Kendra. We thank God for the two of you coming together and recognizing that this was needed, and it certainly was needed. Shout out to everyone who's on the panel. Thank you again, ladies. I received great insight from each and every one of you. Even have learned myself and some approaches and different things that I can do in order to make me a better activist and better spoken. As far as it pertains to words of wisdom, I have a mentor of mine, the late Dr. Dorothy Sharp Johnson, who played a pivotal role in the advancement of female ministers in the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. She was on the ground floor fighting for us. And it's because of her that, we have the voice that we have today, especially within the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. And one of the things that she always taught us is that as we looked at the Bible, we always saw that women were mentioned, but they were nameless. We see where women played a significant role in the Bible and doing great things in the Bible, but they never got their recognition. So she was one of the ones that taught us that when they won't give us our recognition, we need to write our name into the story. And that's what women have been doing for centuries. That's what Black women have been doing for centuries. We have been writing our name into the story. So I would just encourage each and every African-American female out there to continue to write your name into the story. Oftentimes we're not granted access to the table. And it's because of that, that we find ourselves having to search out other forms. But I challenge you, when they don't invite us to the table, kick your way into the door. And if you can't get into the door, you create the table yourself. Build the table so you all can have the conversation, because they need to hear what we're saying. They want our input, but they don't want us necessarily in the forefront. I believe one of our sisters talked about that, Sister D. she talked about that. You know, they want to hear what we have to say. They want our insight. They want our input. But when it comes to giving us recognition, then it becomes an issue. So I encourage you all to keep kicking down the door. Keep writing your name into the story. Where they push our names out, the Breonna Taylors, the Sandra Blands, where they push our name out, the reality is we're all going through it. It's not just about having a Black son or a Black husband, but Black men have to be worried about, Black men have to be worried about their daughters. And men, you have to be worried about your wives. You know, so it's not just a matter of us. We don't need to allow ourselves to be divided. And looking at the fact that it's happening to Black men, it's happening to everybody. So women, continue to write your name into the story. Continue to let your voice be heard. Keep pressing, keep fighting. No, you may not fight the way that I fight. You all kept referring to Reverend Diaz, y'all called her Bulldog, but I know y'all were speaking from the sense that that's the school that you all went to. But you know, you see that in her take no prisoners approach. I am what they call the pit bull. I lock down and I don't let go until I subdue you. And so sometimes that's what we have to do in order for our voice to be heard. Women, keep kicking the doors down. Make your own table, put your name into the story because you need to be heard. Black women, you need to be heard. I'm not leaving my white sisters out, but we're talking about my Black sisters right now. We need to hear from each and every one of you. Our voices matter.
Thank you. Tiffney, I know that you have a scripture that you want to share with us, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, we're wrapping.
Yeah, so as we think about in Zechariah, 4th chapter, take a moment of your time whenever you can and read that. You know, that whole 4th chapter there, and he's going through all these visions. But as he goes through this vision, and he's having his 5th vision, right? And during this 5th vision, he says, well, messenger angel, I don't know what this vision of this lampstand of solid gold and with the bowl on top, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Can you give me some insight? And the angel says, yes, sir, I can, but you don't know what it means? You don't understand? He said, no, I don't. And so the word of God says, so this is God's message to Zerubbabel. You can't force these things. They only come through my spirit, says God of the angel armies. So, big mountain, who do you think you are? So, big mountain, who do you think you are? Next to Zerubbabel, you're nothing but a molehill. You'll proceed to set the cornerstone in place, accompanied by cheers. Yes, yes, do it. Now, I just read a portion of that, but what I grasp from that is through the Spirit of God. When we lean on his spirit, God is calling us to humble ourselves, to pray, to lean on his name, and he will heal our land. Our strategy is not through our own might, not through our own strength, but by the Spirit of God. And so we have to humble ourselves. If we say that we are who we are in the body of Christ, then we're mandated. That's our virtue. That's what we live by. That's what we're ordained to do. And so, yes, we're all angry. We're all upset. We're all hurting. But my might is not going to bring about the change that's necessary. I can't do it with these hands or with my mouth alone. I have to lean on the Spirit of God to bring about the healing for our people. And that's where my heart is today, that we must humble ourselves.
Look here, I'm not gonna let y'all make me cry. Y'all make me cry today with y'all. Y'all trying to make me cry. Autumn was about to cry earlier. She restrained from crying, and you know this is what we talked about. The topic of racism, Black women, the topic of racism, and some paths to move forward, possible paths. you all have provided such, man, some phenomenal conversation. Words can't express the way I'm feeling actually right now, as when I go back and look at this thing tonight or tomorrow, and I'm gonna look at it all over and have the same feeling all over again. But to have you all on my panel, I really appreciate the time you all have taken tonight, just to share openly and honestly, and not be afraid about what anybody thought, whatever, So I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate the intellectual part of it also. It gave me a lot to think about moving JMS Ministries forward and how you all play a part in my ministry. Let's just keep it 100. You know what I'm saying? How you all play a part in my ministry. So I'm gonna stop talking, and when we end, I'm gonna let Kendra thank you all and end with however she want to end.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. Appreciate each of your time. I echo Johnny in the saying of, as we build from the ground JMS Ministries, this is an important conversation, I believe, in the life and the evolution as we think about the purpose and how we come to the table. So what I will say is, in Facebook land, maybe this discussion isn't for everyone. Maybe the discourse that we facilitate isn't for everyone. But what I will say is that JMS Ministries is an authentic place where people can feel that they can come, they can be themselves, where they can talk with us, and that we will take the time to meet you where you are. And it's not about meeting on a Sunday morning or doing a Sunday message. It's about what we do day in, day out as we're in this Christian walk together. So thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you for this over an hour discussion. We appreciate all of you.
Yeah. So thank you all. Autumn Don, McDonald, I love you. Thank you. My sister D, I love you. Reverend Tami, Logan, I love you. Gaynor, G. Gaynor, I love you. And Reverend Tiffney, Davidson-Parker, we love you. We love you. We love you. For all those that are listening, that stuck out with us for these last couple of hours, let's be real. Like I said, this is a deep conversation, a long conversation. Thank you. If you have any questions or concern, you can reach us at JMS Ministries on my Facebook page or Johnny Sellers on my Facebook page. You can email me, jmsministries44@gmail.com. I'm not afraid to answer any questions. I believe in church and state. Let's keep it 100.
Okay, so thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.